Hello, class. Thank you for joining me for this discussion in week four. We get to talk about generations in the workplace. We look at three different articles to really identify more common understandings of what generations bring, what they need, and how it affects the operations or even the organization as a whole. Um, as we grow into these new age, like these new generations, these new days in the workplace, a lot more people are actually staying or entering workplaces, which is a big deal, especially for organizational psychologists. Being able to identify you know a potential employee, um, to be able to do or function is important, and having insight on maybe what might drive them or what might set them apart, or even what might be something that they're not really keen to being a part of, or enjoying, as far as maybe something that might please, or another generation might find satisfying or fulfilling. With that being said, just to get into the questions we have here, what generation cohort do I most identify with? I am a millennial, Generation Y. I was born in 1989, and it's uh, a grouping of times. That's what generations are. I really don't subscribe to most of what they say a millennial is. I think it's a silly way of identifying people, but it could prove useful, especially if our role in the organization is to find talent, skills, or even drive in motivations for other people. So to get into our work here, oh my gosh, let's see. Hmm, interesting. Okay, so what we have here is we have our articles. So we have this one, generational differences in psychological traits and their impact on the workplace. This is by Twang and Campbell. This was first received in October 27 when I graduated high school, and revised in 2008 and accepted in 2008 as well. This is from the Journal of Managerial Psychology. And just to get into what the findings of Generation Me is, sometimes called Gen Y or Millennials, they tend to demonstrate high self esteem, narcissism, anxiety, and depression, lower need for social approval, more external locus of control, and women with more genetic traits. So this is where I don't agree with a lot of the stuff. I wouldn't say that this is completely true. Um, I have a strong handle on my, what I would consider my mental health. I also do seek social approval. I think that's just coming from maybe my cultural background, not so much as my generational background. And I feel like I have a high level of internal locus of control. I believe that I can do anything. I have high self efficacy. And some other things that I noticed um, in in some of these articles is that where is it? Leadership. We didn't have a high leadership. Right here, leadership. I don't believe that's true. I sat on a board for about 10 years, on a nonprofit board. I was even co-chair, and as well as I sat on coalitions and been a part of a lot of startups. And I even am creating my own business at this time. And again, I'm 36, but maybe some other considered millennials might be younger than me and not have had access to these type of roles. Um, but yeah, so some of these are true, or what I would say that are relatable to a lot of the things that I would subscribe to, but a lot of them are not as well. Uh, and then the one of the big things that we talk about, and this is in the article. Let me just show it real quick. This is in Generations in Work, by Gilbert and Dykes. This is in, I think, what year is this? 2018. So I highlighted technology because one of the biggest like components of being a millennial is that we were like raised alongside of technology, which is true. I mean, to an extent, I remember when we didn't have cell phones. I remember when computers weren't accessible. Internet was barely a thing publicly, and yeah, and I remember just being around people more than people are today, or at least more intimately, and more frequently, because now there's a lot more opportunities, and I do think that we were raised alongside of technology, but that also is just a component of the time. So I guess there is that component of generation, but also I think there's a lot of elements of culture about how we were raised. But to get back into the questions of this week, so let me go back here. Um, so again, I identify as a millennial. Just to go through this real quick, what does my generation bring to the workplace? I think I believe that people like me, maybe let's just consider that I subscribe to this whole grouping of the era or time that we bring in the ability to work with new things, like being very adaptable, being very capable, being very confident in new designs, working well with others. Again, used to play with go out and actually have like powwows and campouts and all that cool stuff. Very proficient with technology and all that good stuff. What does my generation need in order to be successful in the workplace? I think we need, at least I would say, I think we need some reinforcement in maybe like acknowledgement of our work, knowing that we're doing matters and that there is some sort of like feedback that can drive us so that we know we're on the right path. Um, Also, maybe some like upward mobility, knowing that we're kind of in the age where some of us might have kids or trying to buy a house and that kind of stuff. So I think there's a lot there. Consider generation differences. What does my generation find most frustrating? I find that maybe there is still a lingering structure of past generations, if you want to subscribe to all that too, where most people were considered to be more loyal to their organizations, and that's not the case anymore. So sometimes people can find themselves in limbo about whether being loyal and staying with the company for as long as they can, or moving from company to company to get that quick jump in pay or responsibility, or whatever drives them. What does my generation need to improve in order to be more effective in the workplace? We need to improve, I would say, communication. I think we're at a level where we're not kids anymore, and we need to be able to communicate professionally and effectively, and especially to drive organizations forward or to really meet people at all levels. We also need to work on growing and career advancements. It's about time to really, whoever needs to or wants to can do whichever they want to do, but maybe some people would like to advance their careers, take on leadership positions, and take on that, take the mantle from those that might be phasing out if they so choose to. And then lastly, work on taking responsibility. Again, we work well with others. I remember all my cousins and friends would come over, but also being able to like take more of an independent stance on things. So those are my perspectives on generations in the workplace. I hope that you guys are having a wonderful evening, and yeah, I look forward to learning about your generations and what you guys bring to the workplace. Thank you.